Hello. Um, so I'm going to talk a bit about how COVID and lockdown has affected my mental health. It's the obvious, being stuck in lockdown in a small flat for 5 months with no contact with other human beings apart from my partner John. So that is obviously having an effect on my mental health, especially my depression, because I'm quite an outdoorsy person. I like to go out in nature and stuff, so basically I'm happy to go for a walk in the countryside or in the woods or something like that. I love doing all of that, and being able to get out to go for them walks helps with my mental health. When I'm having a low depression day, I will get out and about and it will make me feel better. And not being able to do that is really difficult. And then of course there's the anxiety and everything. Now I am anxious about the whole COVID thing, and I'm worried that I might catch it and what will happen if I do catch it. I am kind of anxious about that, but most of my anxiety, I think, comes from one, hospital appointments have been cancelled. So like important specialist hospital appointments, like for my heart issues and stuff like that, I were all cancelled, and that kind of made me really anxious and worried, because I was worried that something to do with my health would be missed and that would cause massive health problems for me. And with my heart issues, they can be a silent killer. And what I mean by that is my heart issues I had before in 2013, I didn't have any symptoms with that at all. No pain, no nausea, no dizziness, nothing like that. So it only was spotted once I had a heart scan. Without that heart scan, I wouldn't be here today, because apparently I'd been walking around with an aneurysm on my aorta for a few years, and it was sat there like a ticking time bomb ready to go off. And it was at that point where any second, with any kind of stress or blood pressure elevation or heartbeat acceleration, anything like that could have set it off at any second. So yeah, it's a bit of a silent killer. If I hadn't had the heart scan, they wouldn't have noticed it, and I would have gone on with my normal routine until eventually the whole thing gave out and exploded, and that would have probably killed me. So yeah, so I do worry that because of all my appointments were cancelled, that made me worry. But now, in the past week or two, that's been relieved because I got given a private hospital appointment for a heart scan. Which is really good. I'm going to get the heart scan, and then I'll have a phone appointment a few days later with my heart specialist to discuss that. So yeah, my anxiety's been relieved on that front, but also a new line of anxiety has been opened by that. And that's this private hospital is a couple of towns away. So I'm going to need to travel to there. And I'm going to need to use public transport because I don't drive. And public transport worries me. One, because obviously the germ aspects. It's a very germy environment, public transport is. So I worry that if those buses haven't been cleaned up properly, I might contract COVID by grabbing one of the handrails or something like that. And I worry that there's going to be people on the bus that have COVID that aren't following the health and safety guidelines and wearing masks and washing hands and stuff like that, because there are those people out there who think they're untouchable, who think that it's not real, and which is fine, it's their opinion, but when their opinion starts affecting me and my physical health, that's when I'm like, stay away from me. But it's not just the germ issue though, it's the fact that for roughly about 5 months I've been stuck in the flat. I haven't used public transport in like 5 months. I've not used any transport in 5 months. I've not left the area where I live. I think the only time I've been out a few times for walks along the shore near where I live by the river. That's about it. I've not gone into the local shopping areas. I've not gone to the city centre. I've not gone to the hospital. I've not even been to the doctor's surgery. I've not been anywhere apart from this flat and just outside this flat. So getting on a bus, anxiety-wise, is going to be difficult because it's something that I haven't done in a while. It's not been part of my normal everyday routine. And that's something that's affecting my mental health, is routine. Routine affects my mental health greatly. If I don't have a routine, then nothing's getting done. It's, chaos. So I need a routine, and when my routine is interrupted or changed suddenly, kind of sends me through a loop, sends me off track completely, and then I've got to figure out where do I go from here. I can't do this usual thing. What do I do now? Panic. And then catastrophize, and my brain tells me the whole world's going to end because my routine has been disrupted, which is really silly, but that's how mental health works, But so my routine has changed greatly. I'm not doing the things I used to do before lockdown. So all the skills I learnt and all the coping mechanisms I learnt before lockdown, I've kind of forgot how to use them now because I've not been repetitively using them, if that makes sense. And that's partly as well the main anxiety I've got is when lockdown is over and I enter back into society, am I going to be able to cope? am I going to be able to relearn those coping mechanisms? Am I going to be able to deal with human beings and all their weirdness? Are they going to be able to deal with my weirdness? Probably not. So yeah, that's where my anxiety is mostly, and I'm a bit kind of worried and annoyed because before lockdown, with my mental health, I had been making some really good progress. Excuse me, fatigue. Yawning like crazy today. But yeah, before lockdown, I had made really good progress with my mental health. I had managed to solve a lot of my problems and learn a lot of new coping mechanisms and do a lot of things I wouldn't have been able to do, say, 5-6 years ago. Because 5-6 years ago, maybe more, maybe 7 years ago, not very good at time. But yeah, a few years ago, my mental health was really bad. It was so bad that it took away my independence. Like, for instance, I couldn't go out on my own because I couldn't speak to a bus driver or a taxi driver to let them know which destination I needed. I couldn't speak to a shop assistant. I couldn't speak to restaurant staff, waiting staff, to tell them what I would like from the menu. I couldn't do that. I had to have someone there with me to speak for me. Which, when you lose your voice, when you can't speak for yourself, and that means you can't advocate for yourself. So then you need someone to do that for you, and that takes away all of your independence. Because with me back then, I suffered with selective mutism. I still do on occasion. I still do when my mental health is really low and when my physical health is low, and I don't have the energy to mask or use coping mechanisms. I tend to go mute and just don't bother talking or interacting with anyone. But it used to be like that all the time. As soon as I step outside my comfort zone, outside my home, that was it, mute. And it was in 2013 when I had all the heart issues that all that started to change, because where it was like a near-death experience, and that changes your view on life and the way you see yourself. Your whole life flashes before your eyes, and basically what flashed before my eyes I didn't like. I saw my life and was like, wow, how many opportunities have you missed because you've gone mute, because you're too anxious to speak to someone? How much of life have you missed out on because you let your anxiety control you? So in 2013 it all started changing. After the open heart surgery, I just thought, I can't go on like this. I need to sort my mental health out. I need to take control. And I started to do some therapy, and that helped a lot. It really did. It really helped a lot. I did some CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. Basically, you learn about your mental health issues and about what triggers them, and you learn how to cope and develop coping mechanisms. You learn to see it coming and learn how to tackle it, which helped really well because I learned a lot about my mental health through that. And I learned what it was that was the problem, because beforehand I didn't fully understand it all. I didn't fully understand, okay, your issue is anxiety, social anxiety, and it is brought on by autism. I didn't know that, back then. Back then I just thought, oh, you're a weirdo. Why can't you just act normal like everybody else is acting normal? I just thought I was strange and that. But then when I did this therapy and stuff, I learned that, okay, I'm anxious and I'm terrible at social cues and socialising. I'm terrible at reading body language. I'm terrible at all this because I'm autistic. And now that I know I'm autistic, and now that I know that I go mute because I'm scared of interacting because of the autistic issues, I know how to battle that, and I know how to cope with difficult situations now. And yeah, so after doing that, I decided, right, I want to test out what I've learned in therapy. I'm going to drop myself in the deep end with some stuff and see what happens. Now, some people might think dropping yourself in the deep end when you're mentally ill with something like that you struggle with, that's probably a bad idea. That's probably going to cause you more mental health issues. And yeah, usually I'd agree, but it actually worked for me, dropping myself in the deep end. There was one day I said to my partner John, I want to go out clothes shopping to town, and he was like, oh, give me a minute, then I'll get dressed and I'll get my shoes on and we'll go out. And I said, no, you're staying here, I'm going out. And he was shocked and he said, really, you're going out on your own? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to test out these new skills I learned in therapy. So I went out to town on my own. I managed to get the bus on my own. But luckily I didn't really have to talk to the bus driver, because at this time I had a pass thing that I just scan on the computer on the bus and done, so I don't need to interact with the bus driver. But still, I managed to get the bus on my own, knowing that there'd be strangers on the bus that may speak to me or come sit next to me. But yeah, I got into town, I went into shops and picked out clothing and went to the till and bought the clothes myself. Spoke to the shop assistants. And then I went into a restaurant and spoke to the restaurant staff, ordered my food myself. And yeah, through the whole day I was very anxious. I was worried the whole time. But then once I had took the steps, like I was doing it step by step, like all I've got to worry about at the moment is getting on this bus. I can worry about the shopping once I'm in the shop, So once I had overcome the bus, I was like, well, the bus was easy. I managed that without imploding or exploding. So let's try the shop. Like, surely I can enter a shop, you know. So yeah, I managed to do it all. And when I got home, the next couple of days, I was completely physically and mentally exhausted. Because of that whole energy of interacting. You don't realise how much energy it takes from you just to interact with one human being, you know. So I was burnt out for the next couple of days, but I was really proud of myself and really happy that I had done it, and that boosted my confidence a little bit. And I thought, well, if I can do a trip into town on my own to do clothes shopping, then surely I can speak to random humans in a pub, you know. So that was the next thing I tried. My partner invited me out to a couple of open mics he was doing. So I went to them and I thought, yeah, I'll just sit and listen to people perform. And yeah, and I saw my partner perform. He did really well, even though he has anxiety too, you know. But he got up on stage and he did his poetry and stuff, which was really cool. And I really enjoyed the night. It was a nice atmosphere. Then my partner said to me, well, I think you should give it a go. You should get up on stage and do something. And at that point I was thinking, are you crazy? I don't think I'll be able to do that. And then I thought, no, that's the old Suki talking. The old Suki is the one that says, oh, you can't do that. The new Suki is supposed to be a can-do person. So I ignored the can-do and I was like, no, you know what, I'm going to do it. So the next open mic, I believe it was Right or No, I went to with my partner. I actually got up and performed. And it was scary as hell. But I dropped myself in the deep end and it paid off, because I got up there and I read my poetry out aloud in front of a room full of strangers, which was amazing considering a couple of years before I could not even speak to a waiter in a restaurant, you know. So yeah, it was pretty amazing. And afterwards, when I come off stage, I was shaking and I kept saying to my partner, did I do alright? I was terrible, wasn't I? I completely messed that up, didn't I? I was horrible. I was stuttering and cluttering through the whole thing, wasn't I? And he was, of course, he's a nice person, so he was like, no, you did fine, you did brilliantly. But then I thought, no, ignore the self-doubt, because you took a big step and you got up in front of a whole room full of people and read poetry aloud, poetry you had written yourself. So it doesn't matter. So I thought to myself, it doesn't matter if I stuttered and cluttered my way through it, you know. Just getting up there in front of people and opening my mouth and speaking was good enough, you know. I didn't go mute in front of everyone. That would have been horrific. If I had gone mute in front of a room full of people that are expecting me to perform poetry, that would have been horrific. But yeah, so all that progress I made, I am now worried that because I've been stuck in lockdown and I've not had that routine of going to the weekly open mics and the monthly open mics, because I've not had that routine of socialising and interacting with other humans, that those coping mechanisms that I've used to do that are going to be now forgotten and unlearned. So I'm worried that I'm going to have to start all over again with that, you know. That's where my main anxiety and mental health is. And I think a lot of people don't realise that people with disabilities and mental health issues don't necessarily worry about catching COVID or germs or whatever. Yes, that is a factor, but that's not what we're totally anxious about. You know, the anxiety is being removed from society, and then what's going to happen when we're suddenly chucked back into society a couple of months down the line? You know, how are we going to cope with that? Because it's very easy to fall into a routine and a pattern. And at the moment, my routine and pattern is sitting around the house playing video games, watching Netflix, and playing around on my computer, learning how to use new software. That's my routine at the moment, you know. I don't have any routine of socialising with anyone face to face, apart from my partner, you know, and I have no problem socialising with him. I'm really comfortable with him. He's the only person that I can open up to fully and be myself with without getting anxious and without shutting down and going mute. I've never ever been anxious around him, not even the first time I met him. So it's just weird. We have a weird connection. I know it sounds cheesy, but yeah. So when he's around, I feel totally comfortable, you know. So it's usually when I go out, I do have him with me. But he's my carer as well. So most of the time I need him with me to help with my mobility issues and help with my wheelchair and things like that. So yeah. So yeah, also the anxiety as well is how people are going to perceive disabled people during this pandemic. And I've already seen stories of disabled people being verbally attacked, physically attacked, over things to do with COVID, people blaming them for COVID. I've seen a story of a blind person being attacked verbally and physically because their blind dog led them too close to the person. Which I thought was crazy, because a blind dog doesn't understand the concept of the pandemic and lockdown and self-isolation and social distancing. A dog doesn't understand social distancing. A blind person cannot see distance. So having a go at a blind person because they've accidentally come too close to you, that's wrong. It's your fault, not their fault. You should be aware of your surroundings, and you should be like, blind person, maybe they can't see me, they're coming a bit close, maybe I should back off a little bit and give them room, you know. So there's anxiety around that, and as well around the country, a lot of disabled services are being shut down. Disabled parking, there's none of that anymore. A lot of disabled parking has been taken away, or now they're charging people to park in the disabled bays. They've closed disabled toilets in a lot of places. In some shops and supermarkets and venues and things, they will not allow disabled people in. If you're in a wheelchair or you're disabled, they will stop you coming in. It's been happening a lot, and I've spoke to a lot of the disabled community, and there is a lot of anxiety around it, and worries that the government are trying to get rid of disabled people. This is why they're extending shielding and telling us we have to shield for the next year or two and stay in our homes for the next year or two, stay in lockdown. So there's worries that we're going to get forgotten. We're going to get shoved in lockdown with a shielding letter and forgotten. And there have been a few disabled people forgotten and left to starve to death in their own homes. The media won't show that, though. The news media won't show that, but it is happening a lot. Because the care systems have been cut for disabled people during lockdown, because of PPE issues and because of the shielding and the lockdown and everything, carers haven't been going to perform their caring duties. So there are disabled people that can't get to the shops, that can't use a computer to do online shopping, that can't get out of bed, and can't access services online and stuff like that. They can't access the prescription delivery services, and they're left to starve to death and rot in their own home. And it's usually a neighbour that finds them dead, a neighbour or a family or friend that finds them dead, you know. So there is a lot of anxiety around that, and I worry that I'm going to get forgotten, because at first, the first couple of weeks of lockdown, I had hardly any food, and I was trying to access online shopping, but I couldn't access it because I didn't yet have the shielding letter, and I hadn't yet signed up on the government page as extremely vulnerable to COVID, extremely medically vulnerable. And I didn't know I had to do that because it wasn't advertised. So I was trying to figure out, right, how do I access food? I can't order my shopping online like I usually do. I'm blocked from doing that because I don't have the shielding letter. And I went online and spoke to the disabled community, and one of them on there told me about the shielding letter and signing up to the government extremely medically vulnerable to COVID thing. Once you're signed up to that, they send you free food parcels, but you cannot sign up to that until you get your shielding letter, and my shielding letter was late by a couple of weeks. So I was really struggling because I couldn't get out to get my meds, I couldn't go out and get food. I was stuck, and you know, I had to eventually send my partner out to get what I needed, and then of course that affected his mental health, because then he was worried that while he was out collecting my meds and getting some food, he was worried he was going to contract COVID and then bring it back into the home and pass it to me. So, you know, it was really difficult those first few weeks of lockdown. But then once I got my shielding letter, I managed to sign up to this government thingy and get the food packages, the care packages, which they send out each week. Then I was able to access the Saints Foundation's pharmacy collections and delivery service, which was really, really helpful. And since then, for a couple of months, 5 or 6 months, we've been stuck indoors. So, yeah, it's not just anxiety around COVID and what happens if we catch COVID, it's the lockdown itself causing anxiety and stuff, you know. So the pandemic is nothing compared to the lockdown, you know. But I decided to take it upon myself recently, the past few weeks, to break some of the rules, the lockdown rules, because my mental health was really low and I needed to get out and about and I needed to see friends and family. Also, some of my friends and family have mental health issues and are on autistic spectrum as well, some of them, so they've been struggling mentally as well, the same way I have. So we decided if we take precautions like use hand sanitizers, wash hands, use masks, do all that kind of thing, we should be okay if we meet up and hang out, you know. So we've met up a couple of times. I've had my younger sister over for a night to stay so we can hang out. And they were struggling a lot as well with their mental health. So because they were in lockdown as well, and I think they were struggling because they couldn't see friends and family. So, you know, I think as long as you use precautions and common sense, you should be okay if you just pop out to see a family or friend on the shielding, you know, because what's affecting us worse isn't the COVID. It's what COVID's caused. It's being isolated and alienated from humanity, from society. It's like we've been shoved into a box and left there and forgotten about, you know, and that's what's causing the problem. So yeah, so I am shielding, I'm still on shielding, but I'm breaking those shielding rules a little bit, you know. But it's up to everyone else if they want to do that, if they're on shielding. I'd say use precaution if you're going to. Yeah. But I've got my mask. I've got it in a Ziploc baggie to protect it and keep it clean. It's a really good tip, by the way. Keep a Ziploc baggie on you to put it in when you're out and about, because like I've seen a lot of people when they want to eat or drink, instead of taking the mask off completely, they'll move it down to their chin or up to their forehead, which is really stupid, because that just devoids the mask entirely. Because when you're wearing the mask, yes, the mask is covering this part of your face and this part of your face is protected. The outside of the mask isn't. So when you touch the outside of the mask, you've then got to wash your hands. At this part of your face, your chin and your forehead, is exposed to COVID. So the moment you move the clean inside of your mask down to your chin or up to your forehead, you then contaminate the inside of your mask with any germs that may have collected on your skin around the mask. And then when you put that mask back on your face, over your nose and mouth, you're going to breathe them germs in. So it is pointless to just move your mask down to your chin while you eat. That's not going to protect you. You've sealed your fate there. You've invited COVID to come and attack you by doing that. So the best way to do it is take your mask off entirely. Most masks fold in half, especially these reusable ones. And you could put a filter in them. So when you finished with your mask, never touch the inside. Never touch the inside of your mask. Always put it on. And then when you want to take it off via the straps. And then fold it, Ziploc baggie. Never touch the inside, because then you contaminate it, and then when you put it back on, you're going to breathe that contamination in. So yeah, and I've seen a lot of people don't know how to use masks correctly. And this is why masks most of the time aren't working, because people aren't using them correctly. And a lot of the time masks don't protect you. They protect, when you're wearing a mask, it protects other people from you. So if a healthcare professional needs to come in and see me, they'd need to wear a mask to protect me from them, just in case they have COVID, because if they breathe onto me or cough or whatever, they're going to give it to me. Whereas if they're wearing a mask and they breathe or they cough, the mask is going to capture all them contaminants that are in their breath. So, or that are in their spit or whatever, you know. So the mask most of the time isn't to protect you from the germs. It's not going to stop you, you know, it's to protect, it's for you, it's to protect other people from you. And that's where people are getting confused with it. I also have my hand sanitizer, which I take out with me when I go out. And I have this little thingy-majig as well. These are pretty cool. I got this on Amazon. I think it was about £5-6. But this is like a door opener thing. You could hook door handles with it and pull doors open. You could push doors open. You can use it to press lift buttons or cash machine buttons, things like that, you know, to stop you touching things and getting germs on your hand. So I use this, and then when I've finished with using this, I give it a wipe over with some Dettol wet wipes, just to make sure that any germs that have been transferred onto it don't then transfer onto me if I grab it and pick it up or put it on a surface and then touch that surface, you know. Yes, it means that I probably have to carry around Dettol wipes with me when I go out, but if it's going to keep me safe, then why not, you know? But yeah, those little door opener things, I think they're called safety keys or something. But yeah, they're quite cheap on Amazon, and there's loads of different types, so have a look on there. Yeah. So yeah, that might sound a bit OCD, wiping everything down with Dettol wipes. I literally have been the whole house. Daily, a couple of times a day, I'll go over with the Dettol wipes. Washing my hands like 3 or 4 times in a row, which I've had to stop myself from doing because I started to get rashes, very dry, cracked, itchy skin, and it started to bleed and stuff, and it was very sore. So I had to stop myself washing my hands constantly, because that was happening. And I do have OCD tendencies due to my autism, but it's mainly, I'd say, organisational based. So I will line things up and put things in certain orders, and I have an issue with like the number 3, doing things 3 times, especially when I'm planning something. I'll triple check it, if I need to plan a route to get somewhere on public transport, I'll plan 3 routes just in case something goes wrong with the first 2, if I only plan 2 routes out, that's it, I can't go because I haven't got a 3rd route. What if the 2nd route goes wrong? And then like routine-based, ritual-based things, like for instance getting dressed. I have to put my clothes on in a certain order, and if I don't put them on in that certain order, if I get the order mixed up, I've got to undress and start again. Because if I don't undress and start again, I feel uncomfortable in my clothes and in my skin all day. Then that's very distracting, feeling constant discomfort all day. So yeah, my OCD is just those kind of things, but recently it has kind of been a bit about the cleanliness and making sure there's no germs, kill all the germs, because if we don't, they're going to kill us, but yeah, it's not surprising with this pandemic. I think a lot of autistic people and a lot of people with mental health issues are struggling with a bit of OCD. I think probably even people without mental health issues are struggling with a bit of OCD due to this pandemic. Excuse me, I've been yawning like crazy today. I'm really fatigued. But yeah, anyway, this video's been running on for a bit. I think that's it really. So yeah, I think I'm going to close this video out. But yeah, do check out my Instagram and Facebook page, Chronically Suki, easy to find. Also, if you're a bit bored in lockdown and need something to do, check out the R4G Facebook page. There is a lot of gaming video content on there that I've made and that few other people have made, so go check that out if you're bored. And please do keep in mind that some of the videos aren't that great because we have been learning in lockdown. We only started learning in lockdown how to use the software to create the videos, so they're not brilliant. And some of the live streams we've done have been very laggy and have cut out and crashed. So yeah, you might have to bear with our video content on there at the moment. But we're getting there with it. We're learning. As you can see, I've been learning with the OBS. That's what I'm using now, the OBS software. And that's how I managed to make the intro of this video. If I press the intro button on my keyboard, it should switch to the intro screen. Watch this. There you go. See? So learning the hotkeys and everything, which it's been a good distraction from the mental health of lockdown. At that. So yeah, it's been fun to learn. But anyway, I'm going to close this video out. So yeah, do check out the R4G Facebook page and the Chronically Suki Facebook and Instagram if you're bored. On Instagram there are a lot of pictures of Squeak, my cat. So if you like cats, go check that out. She features on there quite a bit. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I am now going to press the outro button. See you later, bye bye. And that wasn't the outro button. What button was it? It was F3. Still learning. Bye bye.